Hello, friends. Good morning. I thought I was going to paint all by myself here for a while this morning, but I found myself doing interesting painting and thinking interesting thoughts. That means it's time to bring in my friends. So, good morning. This is Daily Art. By the way, yesterday I had the date wrong all day. Half the day I thought it was Thursday, and it was anyway. So this is actually the correct date. Daily Art Adventure 700. Not that you care about any of that. I understand. Daily Art Adventure 784. That's the important number right there. More white and opaque in late stage acrylics. Good morning. Good to have you with me. So, as I said, I found myself having a good time and processing. If you wonder what it looks like for a late journey artist, if I can call it that, I hope I'm not in my last stages, but that's as maybe you know a term that I have coined in the last 6 months or so to describe young painters. Young in painting, I don't mean young in age necessarily, but early students, wannabes, amateur, beginners, intermediates, whatever word. Anyway, the term I've come up with is early journey painters. Now, have never before referred to myself as a late journey painter, but that's probably a fair label. Again, I hope I'm not in my last stages, but people ask me, how long have you been an artist? And honestly, probably the most honest answer is when I headed off to kindergarten. I can remember. When I headed off to kindergarten, I had a little bit of swagger. 5-year-old swagger, you understand, because I already thought of myself as an artist. My dad was an artist. My daddy was an artist. So, like father, like son. So I thought I was an artist at age 5. I'm sure I wasn't, but that doesn't matter. What matters is what I thought about myself. Anyway, so when did I start making money as an artist? At the age of 18, really. Had my first sort of, not full-time, but solid part-time job as a graphic designer at age 18. So that was coming up on pretty quick on 50 years ago. So anyway, be that as it may, the point I was going to make is, what does it look like for a late journey artist to be growing, learning, discovering, growing? And the pose I was in when I started that statement was something like this. Frozen. That's what it looks like. The frozenness is the key issue. Not frozen in paralysis or indecision. Well, indecision of a type, indecision of a sort. Yeah. Whoops. I started to go get myself a new rag and got interrupted in the process. Hang on a second. So I'm using old ones here. By the way, here's a crazy tip. Evidently, I discovered, again, a lot of early journey artists don't know this, that evidently, if judging by my people that come to my classes, you want to be a good painter, you need to invest, yuck, yuck, in some cotton rags. There's a lot of stuff you can do with paper towels. There is indeed. But there's a lot of stuff you cannot do with paper towels. You must have a rag. And I actually prefer 2 kinds of rags. One is the terry cloth, the fuzzy, bumpy kind. And the other is the, t-shirt type smooth. Anyway, there you go. So I don't remember ever saying that before. Okay, you know, man up, woman up. You got to get yourself some rags. You just got to stop that silliness of thinking you can do everything with a paper towel. You cannot. Anyway, there you go. I didn't plan to go there. Anyway, let's zoom in now. Well, first of all, if you missed yesterday, this is the photo reference. My 9-year-old grandson says, Vika, I don't think you should do that. He's got a point, doesn't he? Why on earth am I even thinking that that might be a scene worth painting? I tried to explain to him, well, Izzy, artists are weird. Myself included, no question. But the artist I was thinking of when I said that was the artists who judge art shows. So if this turns out, this is the kind of painting I'm not doing for money, I'm doing for a competition, which is extremely rare for me. And throughout the course of my career, in fact, I had a bit of an epiphany just this week. I realized, sort of much to my relief, that part of the reason throughout my career, I've entered so few competitions is simply because I can't afford to. I can't afford financially to enter competitions. I don't mean I can't afford the 35, 50 bucks or whatever it is. No. What I mean is, when I finish a painting, doggone it, I need to sell that painting to buy groceries and electric bill and mortgage and stuff like that. So I can't afford, I don't hang on to paintings and enter them into competitions. That's just the realities of my life. And I've done a fairly decent job. I'm the only breadwinner these days. My wife has done various things throughout the years. But anyway, so that was the epiphany. It's like, oh, well, that explains to some degree why entering competitions has been such a weak aspect of my career. It never really dawned on me. Well, it's because you can't afford it, silly. Because I'm making a living at this stuff. I have no artificial means of support. There's nobody's backing me up financially if I fail. If I fail, man, we fail. If I don't sell paintings, things go bad really fast around here. Anyway, but here I am in a very unusual moment where I'm doing a painting for a competition. So am I rich all of a sudden? No. Although I do have a fair number of gigs, projects, commissions coming up that I guess I feel a little bit inwardly released to do this. Anyway, so why am I doing that picture? Because it's a fascinating study of white on white on white on white. White car, white road, white car, white buildings, white clouds. And if this painting turns out lousy, which, by the way, I already have a strong sense that it is not going to turn out lousy. It's talking to me the way I had hoped it would when I started this painting, or when I took the picture. By the way, and again, for those of you who missed yesterday, this is actually a ice cream plant. So there you go, white again, if the ice cream is vanilla. It's an ice cream and milk processing plant in a little town in North Carolina called New Bern. And I was in a gallery for many years in New Bern. Still consider the gallery people there and the people in New Bern in general dear friends. I had a delightful run. The only reason I'm not there anymore is because this past January I made a fateful decision to pull out of all galleries. So, including my dear friends in New Bern. All right, let me now talk about, so what am I processing? And again, I'll repeat, what does it look like for a late journey artist, if I can be so bold as to give myself that appellation? What does it look like for a late journey artist to grow. And this is it. As long as that late journey artist, by that I mean experienced, pretty good, old artist, continues to do the same thing he or she has always done, then that is not necessarily growth, right? It can be processing and development and so on. But this morning, I'm finding myself, I don't know, I feel like I have clicked mentally into a higher level of awareness. And I'll explain that. I'll explain what those awarenesses are in just a minute. But of course, at the same time, I'm still painting, so forgive my halting speech. I got two parts of my brain firing real high levels. One is my painting brain, and one is my talking brain. When it comes to paint or talk, the painting brain had better get priority, right? as long as I'm painting. So that explains my halting speech somewhat. Besides just the fact that I'm an idiot and can't talk very well. That goes without saying, of course. I hope I'm kidding. All right. So what am I thinking? What am I learning? Two things. I've had a couple, like I said, higher level epiphanies. You're about to see one right now. And it is this. This might rise to the level of a rule. Another one of Dan Nelson's, I say to myself, another one of Dan Nelson's rules, or guidelines. Rules is putting it too strong, so guideline. And it is this. And those of you who've been following me for a while. Hello, Yun Yu from the Philippines. Oh my goodness, it's midnight there. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for speaking up. All right, here is the new, possibly new guideline for painting. It's real simple. Every time you put down a mark with a brush, you don't leave it. Every time you put down a mark with a brush, you mess it up in some way. Okay, so this goes under the general rubric rule of the essence of good painting is making interesting marks, right? And the essence of interestingness, are you with? Forgive my butchering of the English language, especially Yun. I don't know that I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I'm sorry about that. But I'm pretty rough on the English language. I speak it well, but I am in the habit of inventing my own words very often. So this goes under the general heading of the essence of good painting is making interesting marks. That's the essence of good painting. And the essence of interesting marks is variety. Most important aspect of your interesting marks is that they're different. So that has given rise now to possibly to this new, to me, new awareness, which is, okay, listen, smarty pants. When you put a mark down with a brush, I'm speaking to myself, your default setting should be, most of the time, to mess it up. So that's what you see me doing here. I'm just putting down marks, and then I'm messing them up. So that's and I've been tiptoeing my way up to this guideline for some time. Over the last several months, I've done this very thing. I've talked about picking up a rag or something. Like here's another. So not just a rag, but the handle of a brush, anything whatsoever. So I've been heading in this direction for several months, but suddenly this morning it's risen to a new level of awareness in my mind. It's like, wait a minute. This should be, I'm thinking, this should be my standard operating procedure. What? What should be? Again, so I'm repeating this. What should be my new standard operating procedure? Is that every time you put down a mark, of course, and as you see here, by the way, do you see my hand? I'm interrupting myself here. Do you see my hand jerking right like that? I talk about this quite a bit. That, my friends, is good painting, and I take great pains to just explain that to people, because many of you early journey painters, you are angry at your hands because they shake, and you feel like that shaking is making you a bad painter, when in fact it is the shaking itself that is your best painting. Stop being angry at your hand. Let me go back just 2 minutes. The essence of good painting is making interesting marks. Check. Okay, this is huge in my philosophy of painting. Huge principle. It's the essence of good painting is making interesting marks. When I look, for instance, when I look at a Jeremy Mann or Richard Schmid or any of the other, or Kali Wisson. Yesterday I mentioned G. Harvey. When I look at their paintings, hang on, I brought up a little book yesterday. It's downstairs. Yeah, here's another one. Just for instance. Eugene Gallienne Lallouet. I'm probably butchering that. I don't know. This is a book that I ordered off the internet a year ago or two. Famous painter of, most of these are gouache. Famous painter of Paris around 100 years ago. That's good painting. These are terrible images, bad reproduction, but good painting. All right. So when I let's pick on that one for instance. When I say let's talk about a good painting, if it is good, and I'm saying that like in comparison to me, is he better than me? I mean, that's not what it's about. But okay, I'm an idiot if I don't first of all answer in the affirmative, because then I'm not likely to learn something from him. So my default setting is, when I look at a good painter, my default setting is, he knows something I don't know. And what is it that he knows? Interesting marks. His marks are better than mine. All right. So when I look at a good painter like that, or like Richard Schmid or Jeremy Mann, if he's better than me, and that is my default setting, by the way, so that I'm open myself to learning. If he's better than me, what is it that he's better at? And usually, the essential answer, his marks are better than mine. His or her marks are better than mine. Okay? And so what I'm discovering this morning is, or coming to a fresh level of awareness is, when you put down a mark, don't just put it down, mess it up. And by the way, I know just enough about Jeremy Mann's. Maybe you can look him up if you want. San Francisco, California. Jeremy Mann. I know just enough to be dangerous, and I know that he's famous for using all kinds of crazy tools in his painting process. Rollers, and squeegees. Then I discovered Christian Hook, another Christian Hook. Look him up. Oh my goodness, he's won all kinds of British Portrait Award. You know, it's like the National Portrait Society, I think, in America, in Britain. British Portrait Society, I think he won, you know, grand prize, #1, big dog, young man, disgustingly young, young man, Christian Hook. And somebody told me he uses a windshield wiper blade to manipulate his paint. All right, so the point I'm making here is some of the artists that I admire most do really crazy things to their paint. So that's what you see me doing here. Now, everything that I've done this morning, I've been doing it for a number of months. Just suddenly this morning, this inclination to place and mess, put it down, then mess it up in some way, has risen in my thinking to the level of like, wait a minute. I'm thinking this should be something more than just something that I do, you know, sometimes. I'm thinking it should maybe be elevated to the level of a practice. This should be my default setting. So that's what it looks like. This is what it looks like for a late journey painter, if you'll give me the grace to call myself that. This is what it looks like for a late journey painter to grow. It's like light bulb comes on. And by the way, that's pretty much the only way that light bulbs come on, is by painting. I guess no, I've had a few things strike me in my sleep. But most of the time no. The revelations that I have about light bulbs coming on, about how to be a good painter, happen when I'm sitting or standing just like this right in front of a painting, and I am painting, and all of a sudden I go, wait a minute, I should do this more. All right, so the other interesting thing that was happening, and again, this was just happening to me 30 minutes ago before I started broadcasting, and it made me think, wait a minute, I should start broadcasting, because this is a moment here. I'm having a moment. Okay, so what else has been happening? And again, this is just more awareness in a church. So with acrylics, right, you have about 3 minutes, 2 minutes maybe, before you can mess the paint up, and then it's dry and you can't mess. With oil, you can mess up a lot more. So I have a few minutes here to mess stuff up. All right, so here's the other awareness that is growing in me. And you see it everywhere in this painting. You see it happening. And I'm going to say I'm giving more deference, D-E-F-E-R, deference. I'm deferring, I'm yielding, I'm giving in, I'm admitting more play. I'm giving more deference. I'll use a small word, simple word here in a minute, but this is a good way to put it. I'm giving more deference to my abstract underpainting than normal. That is to say, I'm being more careful, and you see me doing it even as I talk about it. I'm being more careful to paint around the crazy marks underneath instead of painting over them. Now again, I'm on a journey. Just like you, I'm on a journey of growth and learning as an artist. And this has been something that I have been growing in this for all this year in particular. But all of a sudden this morning on this painting, I feel like I've clicked over into a new level. Maybe I'm trying to think of another way to say it. It's like a new level of willingness to let the original abstract underpainting continue to manifest, to show through, to be seen. Now, if you're just catching me here in the last few minutes and you don't know what I'm talking about, then okay, either just keep watching, for days and weeks, or go back and watch yesterday. I start all of my paintings with a crazy abstract painting underneath this picture, all right? And like all of this red up here, all of this red, yellow, green, red here, red here. There's a lot of red up here because I knew this part of the painting was going to be bluish, cool, so I did warm. Likewise, down here in the bottom, no, that line right there is part of the drawing. But these marks here have nothing to do with the subject matter. They're just abstract marks, okay? Likewise, this red. Okay, so my new awareness, I feel like this morning, is a willingness to leave those marks uncovered, unmolested, so to speak. Leave them still visible. And again, that's been a trajectory. I've been heading in that direction for quite some time. I just feel like this morning I suddenly was able to do it better. Do what better? Leave the abstract underpainting uncovered. Leave it seeable. Leave it visible. Leave it peeking through the picture, the representational stuff that I'm doing on top. All right. So there, those are two light bulbs that came out on the same morning. That's really unusual for me to feel. Time will tell whether any of these, whether any of these impressions stick or whether it's just, something I ate this morning. But I think they probably will stick because they're really hitting me in a very satisfactory place. It's like, wow, yeah, that's good. That's better. This is better painting. This is me painting better than I've been painting heretofore up until now. This is me painting better. So I'm think it's probably going to stick. It's pretty exciting to have like two revelations, two insights hit on the same morning. All right, I think I'm probably going to hang up, so to speak, then end this broadcast here shortly, and paint on my own again. And as I usually say, if something exciting starts happening, like it just did a few minutes ago, if something exciting starts happening, I'll bring you back in. But here it is. So I just put those marks down, right? Now I'm thinking so this will slow down my painting process quite a bit because it means I have to, put down the brushes, pick up a rag or something. But that's all right. I don't mind slowing down if it makes my painting better. And yesterday, when I started this, I started two paintings yesterday. I'll show you the other one before I end this broadcast. Especially if Buddy is watching, because I'm doing a painting for Buddy. I haven't forgotten you, Buddy. I will show you my progress on that one in just a minute, but let me finish a few more marks here. Again, part of the fun of this particular subject matter, ice cream plant. It's white on white on white on white. White road, white car, white building, white clouds. And even if the painting doesn't turn out very well, which I believe it's going to, at the very least, at the very worst, this is going to be a clinic, a primer. I don't know how to pronounce that word. It's probably a regionalism. This will be a primer for students on how to paint white stuff, because I find many times early journey painters, I talked about this a whole bunch yesterday, so I don't want to repeat it a bunch, but I find the early journey painters are often very miscued about how to paint white stuff. And the answer is basically use anything but white paint. That's the short answer. How do you paint white stuff? The answer is not with white paint. And you're seeing this already. Is there any color in here, ladies and gentlemen? Do you see any color? Yes, quite. The thing is chock full of color, right? And it's going to continue to be chock full of color. Yet when it's all done, it will feel like a white road. It will feel like a white car. It will feel like a white building. And it will feel like white clouds, even though the whole thing will just be infused and shot through with all kinds of color. I'm sitting back with my hand on my chin. I'm looking at this painting and thinking, wow, this is a good painting already. It's mine to screw up. I'm in danger right now. I'll do a little bit more. I'm in danger right now of ruining a good painting, because it's a good painting, and if I'm not careful, I can ruin it. Not a fun feeling, by the way. I'm mixing up some green at the moment on my palette. Yeah, again, for those of you, any newcomers here, there's my partial palette. Usually I have two clipboards here. In fact, like this. I built this, by the way, this functionality into my into this easel. It did not come this way. That's one of my own inventions. All the easels I use, either I built them myself from scratch, or I modified them significantly. So just for what it's worth, like, where do you get an easel like that? You have to build it yourself. This is pretty simple, and there's a number of modifications on this easel. But okay, what I'm doing right now, and this might be the last thing I do before I end this short broadcast, is whoops, hang on. Okay, I did a little bit of green right there. That's what you just missed. But I want to take you up to my reference. So there are trees. So there is some green grass, green bushes, green grass, and green trees, right? So green is maybe the second most, other than white, is the second most important color in this subject matter, in this scene. And I don't need to paint it green, of course. I can paint it white and then do a green glaze on top of it. But for some reason, on this particular... Okay, let me zoom in here for just a second, because I just made a stroke. Okay, do you see this red mark? That's one of the... Right before I started broadcasting, I took some of these watercolor sticks and just made abstract marks all over. There's some more red down there. There's some orange right there. Okay, this is the kind of thing I do between every layer. I pretty much push, I re-accentuate, re-exaggerate the abstract. All right, so there's a red mark right there. The realist in my head, the realist painter, and believe it or not, there is one in there. There's a realist painter inside my head. I don't let him out much. But he would squawk at me, say, no, cover that up. That red line has no business up there in those trees, right? But the artist in me shouts down the realist and says, no, shut up, you idiot. That little red mark is, mwah! It's beautiful. Don't cover that up. What are you thinking, right? So the artist, as I said, shuts down the realist in my brain. And the artist is correct. All right, so all that scratching, that's just another method, another technique for put down some paint and then mess it up. All right, so I've shown you many. Here's another one, just a finger, thumb in that case. Okay, so that's what I'm thinking is going to become a new practice of mine. And again, just in case there are any other new people, thank you, Yoon. I'm getting to your question very late here. Thanks for asking it. Yes, I have a name for my overall style of painting, including this put a mark down and mess it up. I absolutely do. I did not make this up. I didn't invent this name myself. I got it from somebody else. David Lefel, L-E-F-E-L, another one of those what I call big dog painters, big famous painter, David Lefel, and he calls his work abstract realism. And several years ago, I heard him use that term, and I realized, bingo, that's the perfect description for my style of painting. Abstract realism. Let me start with the realism. First of all, there's no question that my paintings fall in the category of realism, right? I mean, there will be no question that this is a car. It will be drawn carefully and accurately. Already, I'm sorry, this car here. Already, you can see, even though you don't know what it is, but you can tell that all of this is some kind of industrial mess. Pipes, rails, fence, all kinds of stuff, right? You can tell it's realism, right? But you can also tell that because there's all kinds of abstract marks everywhere in here. You can also tell that whoever did this painting, whatever crazy bloke did this painting, he's not slavishly copying the image. Correct. That is correct. I am certainly not slavishly copying the image, right? So, abstract realism is, I think, a very appropriate, accurate description of my style painting. Thank you for asking. All right, I'm just about to go, but before I do, I will show you the other painting that I'm working on. I started 2 paintings at the same time yesterday. One of the advantages of doing that is that I don't have to wait for one layer to dry. I can go to another painting while I'm waiting for the earlier one to dry. All right, so here is Buddy's commission. I thought when I was doing this white and then some opaque blue and some opaque orange brown, I thought I was going to go straight to oils, but I've changed my mind. I'm going to do 2 more layers of acrylic, one glazing and then one more white. So I'm going to glaze all of this yellow, orange, some blue up here, some green here, yellow, orange here. This right here is a lake. And again, I'm looking at this, my reference, 2 references. One is a photograph that Buddy sent me. The other is a gouache sketch that I did for Buddy, plus a few other references here. As you can see, I'm jerking you all over. All right. So this is a bank of, this is grass, green grass. This is water. There's a lake. Look, we're downhill looking at a lake down there. Anyway, I'm going to do, on this painting, glazes. And when I say glazes, generally speaking, it means with big brushes like this. Okay? And then I'll come back and do white one last time and then move on to oil. But this is, again, for those of you who have been watching maybe yesterday, today, this is indeed starting to look like a forest, isn't it? This tree, I think, is a little bit too fat because either that or this one's too skinny, one or the other. And I don't know which of those I'm going to modify. I think this one needs to be fatter, actually. And again, I'm looking at my photo reference here and my sketch above it. Anyway, changes like that. Of course, I can make changes like that in the oil phase as well. But anyway, that's where I'm going with that, but I'm not going to do that in this broadcast. I'm going to take a little while to go ahead and finish up. And I'll be doing the same thing with this one, by the way. It was when I finish the white, and I've got quite a bit of work to do down here. When I say white, I mean actually white and light opaque, like purple, green. I'll be glazing this one as well, and then in acrylics, glaze colors, and then we'll come back and do white one last time before I move on to oils. When I'm done, these are all oil paintings, but this is layer number 8, I believe, that I'm working on right now, just to give you some idea. And I just told you I'm going to do 2 more. So when I'm done with both of these paintings, there will be 10 layers of acrylic, maybe 11, counting one more pencil layer, maybe. 10 or 11 layers of acrylic, and then there'll be 5, 6, or 7 layers of oil. So what does that up to? 10 plus 6, say 7, 17 layers. There you go. And yes, I'm having fun. Thank you for joining me today. As I said, if I'm going to continue to paint by myself now, I really need to concentrate. Need to do some very careful redrawing of this car. And by the way, I've decided to add. There actually is in the photograph. There's another car here, and my first impulse was to leave it out, but my second impulse has been no. I'm gonna put that back in, so this road doesn't just go this shape. It doesn't just go flying right off the end of the canvas. If I put a car there, it'll kind of like, it'll be fairly abstract, but our eye will stop there, and we won't be swept off the edge of the canvas by that shape of that road. All right. As I said, so if I start doing something inspiring, I'll bring you back in. Thank you, and thank you especially Yun Yu. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. I'm doing the best I can, but thank you so much for speaking up. And all the rest of you that are watching, and I know you're out there because you're watching, but you're not going to say anything, and that's perfectly okay. I watch people sometimes and don't say anything either. Shh, I don't want to engage. Shh. He doesn't know we're here. Shh. I'm doing right now, by the way, a little bit of lighter green on top of the darker green that I just did a few minutes ago. And with that, I'll say, all right, sayonara. My Japanese brother's coming home next week. I have a brother who's lived in Japan for nearly 40 years. I don't get to see him very often. He's a dear brother. He's about as Japanese as you can get for being born in America. And I look forward very much to seeing him. So in honor of my Japanese brother, I say to you, sayonara. Okay, bye-bye.